The Impact Factor's E3 Special.
Welcome, everyone, to the E3 Special for the Impact Factor. All right, we have a little bit of a strange thing going on here today. It's just me, a microphone, and my perspectives on day 0 here. I don't know. The nomenclature is going to be a little bit confusing because everyone has different ways of going about talking about the days. But I'm calling this E3 Day 0, since technically stuff doesn't even get started till tomorrow. But we've had a huge Sunday of news, and I want to give my perspectives here in audio form, here up on this YouTube account, just to let you guys know what I was thinking at the end of the day. So let's get right into it, and not trying to have these things overly long. So the morning started out pretty early with a Nintendo Direct focusing on the Smash Brothers DLC. So we knew this was coming. Masahiro Sakurai has been teasing DLC for a while, and we had an announcement of Lucas just not too long ago. On the previous episode of the podcast, the Impact Factor episode 6, which you can find right here on this YouTube account, Charles Willis and I discussed our predictions of what we expected to see. And due to some earlier leaks that we saw back a month ago with people who data mined the game, it looked like Roy from Fire Emblem and Ryu from Street Fighter were in the game. And there's an unofficial leak then, yesterday, Saturday, which went to prove that there were screens and these little trailers, and basically this Nintendo Direct got scooped. But I woke up early and live tweeted it anyway, and though it was less exciting because we all kind of knew what was going to happen, the event, the stream was still great. We saw, they went right into it, opening it up with a trailer for Roy. And this is a character that's been requested for a long time. He was in Melee, but never made it into Brawl. And people really liked his playstyle. I mean, if you're asking me, there's already a few too many Fire Emblem characters. I think Roy's addition to the game makes 5, which is crazy for a franchise like Fire Emblem. People really like it. But he looked cool. He got retooled, did more damage. He got me a little bit excited. But what I mostly got excited about was to see Ryu from Street Fighter in the game. This is one that, had I not seen the leak earlier, I would have never in a million years said, oh yeah, Ryu from Street Fighter is going to be in Smash Bros. Especially because we got Street Fighter 5 information this week. But, oh man, he looks great. Ryu has, Smash is a 2-button fighter compared to a game like Street Fighter, which is a 6-button fighter. But looking at his inputs, Nintendo really paid homage to Street Fighter in interesting ways by giving players simple inputs to do a lot of his moves, but also having all these different kind of analog style of inputs by using either tilts or light taps or heavy taps or holds. And you can do all sorts of different combos with the character. You could also do his directional inputs from Street Fighter, so quarter circle forward for Hadouken, or quarter circle back for the Zensuken, and then your standard Z-stick for a Shoryuken. And if you are able to pull off those stick movements in game, you get a power advantage. The move is stronger. So it's crazy. The work that went into creating Ryu was just astounding to see and really cool. So it would have been an amazing way to kick off the excitement for E3 in the morning had the leak a month ago not been out, or the big, huge information leak that happened yesterday. But it's still good to see that all put out there through official channels. Midday, then, we had Nintendo was really trying to steal this Day 0 with the Nintendo World Championships. They announced that a while ago, but we really had such limited information. Just a week or two ago, we got it was announced who was competing, where there's 8 invited players and 8 players who earn their way through participating in Best Buys. And so Nintendo World Championships, it's kind of like your standard competition. It was very reminiscent of their Smash Bros. Kind of invitational tournament from last year that they did at E3 in addition to their Direct on that Tuesday. So the players game, blah, 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 and they competed in a series of challenges. And so overall, Nintendo World Championships is pretty much what I expected from the event. There's a little bit of roughness, there's a little bit of, players, kind of awkwardness with how things got set up. But once things got going, the event was pretty fun. It was one of the things I liked most about seeing Nintendo World Championships this Sunday afternoon, like leading up to the big press conference tonight, which was Bethesda, which we'll get to in a second. It was just a passionate experience. It's people who love playing games. And Nintendo, I think, is one of those companies that can really sell themselves on, we make games that are fun, that people can play, and that people really find this association with and familiarity with. And that, you can play for fun or competitively or any way. It kind of celebrates that games are something that people play for themselves and together and are fun to watch. So some of the highlights of this invitation of this Nintendo World Championship, which actually admittedly had pretty little pomp and circumstance for being a World Championship for Nintendo, their second ever, probably second only at this point. Was the first round was they played Splatoon, which is that new shooter that came out in May for Nintendo, and that was pretty cool to see. Splatoon is a game I've been interested in, though I don't have a Wii U, so it's not a game I'm probably going to pick up anytime soon. But it's fun to see kind of the fruits of Nintendo's labor, trying to, as they move gradually more towards what gaming has become without them. It's got these third-person shooter aspects, but they really focus on a unique gameplay mechanic, and it's fun to see the matches. And honestly, if I did have a Wii U, Splatoon is a game I would pick up. But I think one of the highlights of what we saw there was the Reggie Fils-Aimé match between Reggie Fils-Aimé, the president of Nintendo America, and Hungrybox, the second-place finisher at the Smash Invitational at last E3. And he is known in this Smash scene as he's great player. He consistently does well. And he plays a mean Jigglypuff. It was just a hilarious match because, last year on stage, Reggie called out Hungrybox saying that, next year I'm going to kick your ass. The match didn't go so way. Reggie kind of kicked his own ass for most of the match, suiciding as he played his Ryu. And but it was just fun to see someone like Reggie, who's really kind of in touch with the player base and with the Nintendo fan base, to kind of give them what they want and to be that figure, fall on his sword and be goofy. And there was a lot of fun exchanges. So I think Nintendo has been really kind of capitalizing, due to their failure, honestly, of the Wii U, whose sales numbers are pitiful. Really kind of tapping into these most devout, hardcore people and the people who've been lifelong Nintendo fans. And Reggie sold that perfectly, and him just being there was a sign of good faith. Like, they acknowledge this culture that they've brought to bear about their games, and that was really cool to see. But I think for me, the best part of this Nintendo World Championship was the finale. It was between two players, and they competed against a series of Nintendo designed levels in their new upcoming game this fall, Super Mario Maker. The Super is now a new subtitle for the game, but Super Mario Maker, which allows the player, when the game comes out, to build your own Mario inspired levels, either in any kind of Mario genre. Mario 1, Mario 3, the Wii ones where you have the 3D graphics. And it was great to see the power of the tools that game provided. Honestly, some of the levels they included were crazy looking. The one started off as looking like level 1-1, that standard Mario Brothers 1-1 on the NES. Then went into this insane series of, moving platforms and crazy flame walls, and using momentum and jumping off of floating Koopas to reach the end. And really kind of not only highlighted the player skill that had made it to the finale of the event, but showed off really what fun Mario Maker can be. Mario Maker is a game that I've been skeptical about for a little bit as one of Nintendo's marquee games for the show. Right? Because Mario Maker essentially is just, it feels more like a feature than a complete game. You've got games like Little Big Planet, which has its own story, but its main focus is these creator tools that people can use to create community levels. But they really include the self-contained, story and levels to get players engaged, those who don't really want to participate in these level creation tools. And so I'm still skeptical after seeing this, that Mario Maker is this marquee, big, fall title, $60 game. But what it does give me hope for is that a lot of really cool levels can be made. I got serious, a little bit, not only Little Big Planet vibes, but some Spelunky vibes. The platforming looked really intense and really fun, and really, you have to learn and study. They showed a different number of kinds of ideas in the levels. One of the first levels they played was very much keeping your momentum and going fast, and this kind of reaction speed to moving through the levels. And then one of the later ones was a much more cerebral level where they had all these branching paths, and you kind of had to follow and test and experiment to see what's the best way to move through the level. And so I like that. It looks like you're going to be able to have a diversity of experiences in Mario Maker. And ultimately it's going to come down to the content creators. All right, because a game isn't much without a game like this, at least, isn't much without a really hardcore, dedicated community that's making these great levels. Because one of the things they really showed off was how hard the levels can be, and I like that as someone who really likes hardcore games and being punished and learning through failure. You get into sticky situations with create your own content games. It's very easy to make a hard level, but it's very difficult to make a hard level that has a clear solution and a clear way to progress through it. And so I think that Mario Maker is really going to live or die by how committed the community is to building levels that are fun to play and well-designed, that can both challenge you and do things interesting, and not just recreations of old Mario levels, or not these just brokenly hard experiences that maybe if you get lucky you can proceed to the end. But the finale was great. I recommend everyone. There's probably going to be some videos on demand of the finales. Really check that out. Those levels are nuts, and it made me excited to want to play Mario Maker. It's a game I would play if I owned, but certainly without the console and without the game, I don't know if it's really a $260 investment just to play some custom Mario levels is worth it. There were a couple announcements, too, at this Nintendo World Championships ahead of their Tuesday morning direct. They announced Earthbound Beginnings, which is taking Mother 1 and bringing it for the first time to the West, which is really cool to acknowledge, again, this hardcore community that they have that's worth appealing to, and they're releasing that for the virtual market. And that's one of those things that, with E3, we're getting increasingly like, okay, we have a new game coming out, and it's coming out today, buy it now! And Earthbound is coming out, I think it's already out. And the Smash Bros. Too, I forgot to mention that. The Smash Direct, Roy, Ryu, Lucas, all these Mii Fighter costumes, they're all out today. They were out at 8 a.m. right after the Direct finished. And that's such a cool thing, to get excited, to see what's there, and then you can power on your 3DS right after the Direct and download, Ryu to play around with, or download Earthbound, which, people have been talking about that game for years. One of the games included in the Nintendo World Championship 2 was a game called Blast Ball, which is, kind of really reminded me of the 90s era of games where everyone was trying to put some sort of sci-fi or some sort of crazy extra spin on the sports game. Blast Ball is just this soccer game where you play as these robots and you shoot the ball to get into it looks fun. I already kind of have my eyes set out, though, on a soccer-like game called Rocket League, which is coming on PS4. So this one it doesn't really speak to me, but it looks fun, and the commentators did their job at making it interesting. But anyway, moving on to the real meat of this day one. We all knew it was coming, the Bethesda press conference. What a show! My excitement levels are already crazy high for this, and now to be here, sitting recording this just after I finished watching it, the rest of the companies here, Sony, Ubisoft, EA, Microsoft, they have their work cut out for them, because it looks like Bethesda might have won E3 before it even starts. So let's go into a little bit what we saw in the Bethesda press conference. So they opened the show with Doom, which was a surprise to me. And Doom, they had this long series of gameplay demos and really showed fans of the series and what fans are looking for, what Doom is and what they want Doom to be. And I think, to their credit, they made a Doom game that people have been clamoring for a while. So, in my looking at my notes here, I noted Doom looks like Doom, and I think that's a good thing. I think one of the biggest things that Bethesda and id wanted to move away from was the image that Doom 3 created, where one of the central mechanics for Doom 3 was switching between your gun and a flashlight, really incorporating these survival horror elements, a la something we've seen in Dead Space, and creating that sense of tension and that vulnerability. But what fans really liked from the original Doom games was that powerful feeling as a kind of space marine traveling around on Mars with a super shotgun and the BFG just absolutely destroying hordes of demons from hell. And that's what it looks like we've seen here. That first gameplay demo showed off a lot of different elements that really kind of seems to bring the series back to where it started. We've got, fast movement and fast gameplay, which is something that I predicted along with Fliss on our E3 predictions episode. It looks like it's faster than your standard first-person shooter, though I bemoan, I wish there was a little bit more speed and a little bit more quickness to the gameplay, but I guess what are you going to do? But they showed off a bunch of different features in there, like you can interact with the environment by like blowing up explosive barrels. They've got these brutal melee finishers, so it seems when you've done enough damage to an enemy, they kind of have a blue sheen to them, and if you approach them and press the melee button, there's all sorts of these different contextual melee finishers, like kicking them over an edge, or ripping off their arm, or gouging their eyes out with your fingers, or one, they showed the protagonist ripping the head of one of these demons in half and its tongue was still sticking there. So really they're going back to that brutal violence, that gore, that bloodiness that people love to see in Doom, and also that kind of fast, aggressive gameplay. I mean, in both gameplay snippets they showed, the protagonist really never took cover behind anything. He was just kind of running around and going up and right into demons' faces and shooting them with a shotgun. And that's certainly what I would want out of a game. I'm sick of these first-person shooter campaigns where it's basically a small hallway and then you reach a shooting gallery where you kind of have to hide behind a wall or behind some sort of obstacle and then pick off things as, from a distance. It's great. It looks like here with the health regens that pop out, with the ammo that pops out, and with the kind of the insistence on shotguns, they want you to be up in the face of these demons and have that really satisfying, visceral, brutal combat. I'm not a huge fan of Doom. I played the originals. I never got around to Doom 3. This game didn't necessarily make me excited to pick up Doom, or it certainly didn't convert me as a big Doom fan. But seeing this, I like that what Bethesda showed was Doom getting back to being Doom and appealing to those people who like Doom. And so for someone like Charles Fliss, my co-host, who is a big Doom fan, I think this is exactly the kind of game he wanted to see. And for me, it's one of those games that I think if it came at the right time and if I was looking for a shooter experience, it'd be certainly something I'd be interested in picking up, though it doesn't make me jump out of my seat with excitement. One of the things that they introduced with their Doom snippet, though, that is really cool, and I think more of these predominantly single-player experiences, though Doom has a big emphasis on multiplayer as well, is the system that they showed called Snap Map, which, like Mario Maker, is a create-your-own-level tool, but for Doom. It's a Doom Maker, if people have kind of commented on social media. It lets you design different multiplayer modes, different kind of horde maps. They introduced that you have elements you can create, like a horde mode, like was introduced in Gears of War. They described a system where it's much like the Treyarch Zombies mode, where you kind of fight waves of enemies and can level up, collect money to buy more powerful guns and health power-ups, and something akin to those. And again, giving power to the most hardcore and most devoted of your fan base usually produces pretty good results. And so Snap Map was really cool to see. And I think one of the key issues it addresses is providing longevity to a game. More and more people are weighing their purchasing decisions because there's so much out there on how long they can play a game, how much value they're going to get. A lot of people use the metric dollars per hour. Well, if it's a $60 game, I want to at least get 30 hours out of it, so I spent $2 an hour or something like that. And so adding Snap Map and systems like it give players the opportunity to sink as many hours as they want to into the game and have really this endless source of content. Because you get criticism, say something for like The Order 1886, which came out in February, which, it had some pretty mediocre reviews, but really all there was to do in-game was a 7-hour single-player experience, and I'm okay with a game like that if it's exceptional. I have no problem with something like, the Uncharted 2, just the 10-hour single-player experience there. I would have been more than happy to pay $60 for Uncharted 2, not even touching the multiplayer. But the truth of it is, you really need to create these modes to appeal to people, and so I think the Snap Map is a good way to make Doom a better value for players. Moving on, because we have a lot to talk about, and I don't want to make these things too long, because they're just kind of my unfiltered thoughts at the end of the day. They talked a little bit about something that got me a little excited, though a little eye-rolly. They talked about the Elder Scrolls Legends, which is Bethesda's take on the free-to-play card game, which, now that Hearthstone has proven, not only is it a financially viable model, it's a financial juggernaut model that really people are going to imitate more and more. The the Elder Scrolls wants, and Bethesda wants to get in on it. So they showed a little bit of a trailer. They really didn't give us much information to go off of. But there's the Elder Scrolls Legends free-to-play card game coming out on computer and iPad, which is great. Again, I don't have an iPad, but if I did have an iPad, I know the number one thing I would download on there is Hearthstone. It's like a perfect pick-up-and-play game. It's a perfect mobile game. If my phone were new enough, I would download it on my phone. It's just, a phenomenal mobile experience that really feels hardcore. And so I think the Elder Scrolls Legends has an opportunity, because currently Hearthstone doesn't have as many competitors in this free-to-play card game space. There's certainly not competitors that are attached to an IP that people care about. As sad as that is, I would love for an original card game to come around that really has these great systems and fun pick-up-and-play mechanics and free-to-play mechanics that don't really exploit the player, which Hearthstone does a good job of doing. People care about the Elder Scrolls, and it's been a while since Skyrim was released, and the Elder Scrolls Online is not doing so great for Bethesda. I'd be interested to see the sales figures on PS4 and Xbox One. The Elder Scrolls Legends really could capitalize on a community that cares about card games and wants something like Hearthstone, but is maybe put off by as popular as Hearthstone is, or is put off by the art and the animation, or feels no connection with the Blizzard lore, so they don't really want to play with characters like Jaina or Uther or whatever. I never really found that an issue because I'm not really a Blizzard guy. Looking at all the cards and the characters, I'm like, oh, a Murloc. Okay, it's some fishy thing. So it's interesting. It's something I'm going to keep my eye out on, certainly. I don't necessarily see myself investing a lot of hours into the Elder Scrolls Legends because Hearthstone is I've had such a sunk cost into Hearthstone as is. I've put hundreds of hours into Hearthstone and hundreds of dollars. But I'm glad other people are taking this initiative, and it is a little bit exciting. Moving on, Dishonored 2, one of our predictions in our episode. Dishonored 2 was announced. Again, this is another one of those cases of things were leaked a little bit too early. Because apparently Bethesda was doing a rehearsal yesterday, as, you might expect. But a part of it got accidentally streamed, revealing Dishonored 2. But Dishonored 2 is coming out. Arcane has been quiet for a while. They're working on it. There's the Dishonored, the complete collection coming out this fall, which is the first game, plus all the DLCs remastered for this current gen of consoles. Not super interested. I have the first Dishonored free on Plus. But Dishonored 2, they showed probably not a gameplay trailer, a cinematic trailer, emulative of what gameplay should be, or is probably going to be. And it looked great. There's these cool powers. They showed off stealth elements and a lot of the these cool traversal elements. They showed a female assassin, which was really cool. You don't have to play as Corvo. You have the option of playing Corvo, the protagonist from the first game, but you also have a female assassin who has this really cool kind of grappling hook shadow snake ability that shoots out of her arm. That looked really fun, and it could be, I guess replaces her blink. Corvo uses the blink to kind of teleport around the map. For me, I haven't played the original Dishonored. It's been on my backlog for a long time. It's very close to the top, but I haven't gotten around to it. But Dishonored 2 kind of really got me excited to pick that up. And so, who knows, the Impact Factor listeners, maybe I'll pick up and play Dishonored sooner rather than later. But the game looked great. They didn't have a release date or release window. But it's something people are excited about. I'm excited about, even though I haven't even played the first Dishonored. So, yeah. Let's get into it with the rest of the time we have. Fallout freaking 4. We knew it was coming. They announced it 2 weeks ahead of E3. They had the little please stand by teaser. The trailer dropped the next day. I wrote about it a little bit. I thought it was a little bit strange for Bethesda to be announcing Fallout 4 before E3 because it's going to be such a big game. People have been excited about Fallout 4 for a long time. It's been so long since Fallout 3. But we'll get to it. Something I predicted came quite true. But Fallout 4, it looked great. They showed so many different elements. You get to play before the bomb drops as your protagonist. You can play as male or female and fully customizable options. And what a great and smart nod to the character creator. Often it's a separate screen, but Bethesda showed off that you basically wake up one morning with your husband or wife, depending on which gender or character you play as, and you just go to the bathroom sink in the morning and look in the mirror, and that's where you customize your character. It's such a funny way to go about that, and kind of reminds me of the character creator in Fallout 3, when you started as a baby and when you grew up, you got to shape your features that way. And Bethesda is really clever with that. But there's so much they showed. This huge open world. All of what they showed looked like it was in-game or taken from in-game footage. They've got all these different crafting mechanics they're throwing in. The open world is huge. They have the story. You're 200 years after the explosion of the bomb, so it's really interesting. It looks like you're going to explore a Boston that has been this Fallout wasteland for hundreds of years. And so really seeing what societies and what humanity has done with the wasteland looks really interesting. And they've got this whole house building system, which, is like something like The Sims, and you got to defend that against raiders, and weapon crafting and great combat, and they've got the VATS makes a return as everyone kind of anticipated. Everything looked great. It looked so much fun. And then what I predicted, Fallout 4. They teased it early. And I'm like, why would they do that? Why would they sap some of the wind away from the sails of their biggest IP? Now I know. Fallout 4, they finished their press conference. Fallout 4 release date, November 10th, 2015. What a freaking way to end the show. Everyone's been excited for this game for so long. We all kind of knew it was coming, and looking at the game, the more and more that Todd Howard talked about it, the more it's like, this is all in-game. They're not really trying to hide anything. It looks like a pretty finished product, and it is. Fallout 4 is coming out this fall. Other titles, unless your name rhymes with Ball of Duty, you should probably get out of the November release, because this game is going to be huge. Those games are always huge, and it looks like they jam-packed as much content into the game as just humanly imaginable. And then there's so many other features there's so many other companions to this Fallout 4 universe that they're building. They announced that there's going to be a smartphone app to let you navigate as if you were on your Pip-Boy, which is that in-game menu, which is such a smart thing. Second, I remember at E3 or 2 ago, companion apps were the big hubbub. Every game was going to have a companion app, but they really mostly fell by the wayside because the capabilities were so limited and, albeit they were so kind of, cruddy, that nobody wanted to do it. But it seems like, menu navigation in big open world games and menu navigation in RPGs is so much of what you do. And so if you could have a secondary screen that you could still be doing stuff in-game but messing with your screen on your phone, it seems like something at least that I'm worth looking at, worth trying. And then there's the Fallout Shelter, the iOS game that's coming out, which looks like a hybrid of a lot of things like XCOM and Tiny Tower and the Sim City, and it looks just like fun. It's clear that the team behind Fallout 4, Todd Howard and Bethesda, just really had passion while they were making this game and wanted to have something. And Fallout Shelter, by the way, in E3 fashion, comes out today! Unfortunately, my phone will probably not be new enough to play it. Oh well. Well, that's my thoughts for day 0 of E3 2015. There's a lot to be excited about. Bethesda already has put its stamp on E3 2015 and is like, all right, guys, let's see what you've got. I'm excited to see it. I mean, in best case scenario, each press conference after the next is better and better. But Bethesda really kind of put their mark on it. Fallout 4 is going to be one of the biggest stories of E3 2015, if not already the biggest story. It looked beautiful. It looked fun. It looked huge. It looked like people, myself included, are going to lose probably months of their lives to it. And it's out this fall. So again, if you guys had thoughts, let me know. Please post in the comments below if you guys had thoughts about this. Agree with me, disagree with me. Maybe you think Doom looks great and Fallout 4 looks horrible. Or maybe you're not excited about the Ryu DLC for Smash Bros. I'll be back tomorrow for another little recap like this. Please follow me on Twitter at Alex Samoha. That's Alex S.A. Mocha, like the coffee. I'll be live tweeting every press conference. That tomorrow, that's Monday the 15th, that's Microsoft, EA, Ubisoft, and Sony. And then on Tuesday, it's going to be Nintendo, Square Enix, and the PC Gamer Show. Please check out our SoundCloud for episodes of our podcast at soundcloud.com/The Impact Factor, and my blog about video games, a Ph.D. biomedical scientist talking about video games. That's theimpactfactor.blogspot.com.